Welcome back to The Short Game. This is a show where we talk about short video games, the kind of thing you can pick up and complete in an evening or a weekend, games that respect your time. I'm your host, Reagan Kelly, and I am joined by two awesome co-hosts. Shane Kelly, how are you doing, Shane?
I am chilling like a manatee.
Interesting. And Nate Heininger, how are you doing, Nate?
Fresh from bullet hell.
Wow. Yeah, this was an intense week for a variety of reasons, but not least of which because we played Assault Android Cactus by Witchbeam, which is a brand new indie studio.
Which beam? That beam.
That's not a great joke. But
That's mediocre.
Mediocre at best. But the game that we're talking about this week, Assault Android Cactus, is anything but mediocre. It's pretty rad, and I really, really enjoyed playing it.
I think we all can agree. This was a killer game. It was super fun.
Yeah.
This was awesome. Yeah, I think this is right in the kind of wheelhouse of games that we look for on this show. Less on the, a lot of the games we do are going to be like maybe a really great story or really thought-provoking video game. This is the perfect game on the other side of the spectrum. This game was so fun and like so stupid. I've never like stupid in like the not like I don't know. Just play it, you'll see what I mean. Like,
yeah, we're just gonna this whole episode. We're just gonna it's
the short
good,
game.
but
Play it, you'll see what we mean.
yeah,
yeah.
We have nothing intelligent to say about it.
Game journalism. Yeah, just play it. Why do I have to tell you about it?
Yeah, I mean, start off, just buy it. It's like $15 about, right? Somewhere thereabouts. So play it. Episode over. The end.
Yeah. So it's a dual stick shooter. If you've played one of those, you have a basic idea of what this is, but it is really just distilled down to really just, for me, just the fun parts of a dual stick shooter. So Assault Android Cactus is a game about a kind of plucky team of vaguely anime-inspired, giant-headed assault androids with adorable names like Cactus and Holly and Lemon and Coral.
Shiitake.
Yeah, and they're all on a giant spaceship, but really the story doesn't make a lot of difference. It's a cute setup, and your characters are all trying to defeat the Section Lords, which is a fancy name for boss giant robots. And that's pretty much the story. You're going to be fighting wave after wave after wave of lesser, less cute robots until you reach a Section Lord, and then you're going to fight that for a while. That's the story of Assault Android Cactus.
So I've played some dual stick shooters, played some Helldivers with you guys, which was a ton of fun. Recently played Gauntlet, which was a free game on PS4. And it was fun. It wasn't. It was fine. But like what Reagan was hinting at is like this removes everything that like a lot of those games will have, like crazy leveling up or item pickups and stuff like that. Yeah, like different systems. And this is just like you have a character with a gun. There's like 8 different characters, so different guns. A secondary gun. There's a few item pickups, but they're just like power ups. And wave after wave, like this game is the most stuff I've ever seen on the screen at the same time, and you just have to fight and kill and survive, and it is insanity.
Yeah, the pace is incredibly fast. You're often kind of shooting. All of the levels are very contained. They're all sort of arenas, and there's a few levels that kind of mess with that a little bit and have the level change as you go, but for the most part you're in a room, and that room is your stage, and it's just going to be wave after wave of robots coming at you.
That's actually one of the things I really enjoyed about the game, the almost arena aspect of it, because it does give you the chance to kind of get in a groove and kind of learn like the choke points and the great spots to fight from in the arena instead of like constantly moving through a dungeon or something like that. And this game does require some replay. Like I don't know about you guys, but this game is definitely not easy.
No.
So I had to I played the whole game through with Molly. Awesome couch co-op. We had to restart levels many times, and it being this like cool arena, it really helped you kind of get better. you know?
Yeah, there's no exploration involved, which is like Helldivers involved a certain amount of like using a map and things like that. And that would just be too slow for a game with the just insane pace of Assault Android Cactus.
To me, the thing that this game most resembles, and the thing that the best comparison I can give for it is it's an arcade game.
Yeah.
So it feels extremely like a 90s arcade cabinet type game where, you know, you might have a friend walk up and play some levels with you. And that comparison goes through like a lot of the different parts that make it replayable like an arcade game. So that's when you get to the end of a level, you get a letter grade score, you know, based on your performance in the level. And even the characters have that kind of 90s arcade feel with the sort of chibi big head, you know, vaguely Japanese inspired everything. It has this sort of feel of a Neo Geo cabinet type experience.
Tim Dawson, the main developer, there's a few developers. It's a small team. It looks like it's, according to their website, Tim Dawson, Santana Mishra, and Jeff Van Dyke. But I think Tim Dawson is the lead. They worked together at Sega Studios Australia. This is an Australian company. And they sort of broke off to make this game. This is the first game from Witchbeam, their new studio. And I was reading his Twitter and some interviews with him, and one of the things he said was the biggest influence on this game is Smash TV, which was a sort of a pseudo sequel to Robotron. Smash TV is a game that I've only ever played a couple of times in arcades. There were home ports of it, but I never had them because it was a dual stick shooter in the arcades. And
yeah, that's pretty rare.
Yeah, it was pretty rare at the time in particular. And then it was even rarer on home consoles because there were no consoles at the time that had two sticks. Apparently, the SNES version was tolerable because you'd.
So you mean dual stick shooters were rare when there was no such thing as dual sticks?
Right. Well, in the arcade, it actually did have two sticks. Like it had a left and right stick, and you used both to one to aim and one to move. And at the time, like Robotron and Smash TV, that was pretty much it in that genre. But the home ports of that, I don't know. Like, I never really got to play those kinds of games as a kid because I had a Genesis. There was, like, no way to accomplish that on a Genesis. The NES version of Smash TV, you actually had to plug in two controllers, and you would use the D-pad on both controllers to move and shoot. And that was, like, for single player. So, yeah, crazy. But, yeah, this game, it really feels connected to that sort of arcade experience. I could almost see this as like a coin-op machine.
Yeah, well, and it's punishing like a arcade game. Like if I was thinking, like if I had to put a quarter in every time I had to restart. Like,
yeah, would have cost way more than the game cost on PSN.
You know what's funny is that like I definitely saw the game as a difficult game, and I know you did too, both of you guys really. But when Julia and I got to sit down to play it together. She and I have played a lot of dual-stick shooters. She was like, this isn't very skill-based, is it?
Really?
And I kind of interrogated her on that. And so her thinking on that was based around the kind of core piece of the game that we haven't really talked about, which was the battery meter.
Oh, man, yes.
And how it doesn't really matter whether or not you are getting killed. Like, you can just pop right back up. You might lose a power-up, but you're going to lose that over time anyway. Mm-hmm. So, being able to just sort of die and then pop right back up, she's like, oh, well, this is easy, she said as we got started. But then as we got a little farther in, you really are hunting for those batteries.
Yeah, let's set up the battery.
When you start a new game in this, you have a full battery meter at the top of the screen. And if you have multiple players, that battery meter is shared for all the players. And the only thing that's draining that battery is time. Getting killed doesn't drain the battery faster. Doing really well doesn't charge the battery. But every so often, when you kill an enemy, the enemy will drop a battery power-up, and it gives you more time. So in a lot of these games, if you're just doing nothing but running away and taking pot shots at the enemy, then the battery might pop up really far away from you and you might not get to it, and the battery meter will drain all the way, and then you have to restart the level.
Yeah, the key thing for me here is like you have to be doing an enormous amount of damage per second all the time. Like you have to be killing things constantly. Because if you stop, if you decide to take your time, if you decide to play evasively, if you decide to constantly back off and take pot shots from a distance, you're not going to be doing enough damage fast enough to get that next battery drop in time. And it's particularly difficult with bosses because the bosses always have sort of phases, and you have to defeat a phase before your battery runs out so that it'll drop another battery. It really contributes to the speed and the pace of the game. You have to be constantly doing damage.
And the batteries are clearly not random drops. It is almost like unknown checkpoints is when a battery drops. So you're being timed how fast you can get through each wave. And sometimes the waves are seemingly endless without a break in between, but it will be every once in a while you'll catch it where there was like you missed one thing on the screen and you go kill it and it drops the battery and the next wave of monsters or robots comes out. So this game is a constant race against time. And so yeah, dying doesn't matter in that you aren't inherently hurt by dying, except for that while you're dead, you're not doing any damage and thus not moving yourself closer to spawning another battery. Also, every time you kill something, it drops little like gems, I guess, that slowly, I forget what they are exactly, but they basically power up your basic attack. And every time you die, you drop a bunch of them. So dying does also set back your primary weapon. So like in a perfect world, you're staying alive and constantly dealing damage and powering up your basic weapon, making you even stronger, making you deal even more damage, and you get into these incredibly satisfying runs where you're just like sweeping a stage.
165 chain.
Yeah, it does keep streaks. And I mean, this screen is full of individual creatures or robots that are trying to kill you, each doing their own little attack motion or shooting their own little plasma ray or plasma ball, or maybe the ground is exploding, or maybe there's like mortar shots coming in from the top. And like with the character that I played almost entirely was Starch, has like a straight laser beam. And so I could just, once I got powered up entirely, the laser beam was huge, and I could just like cut swaths of creatures in half, like clearing out it was so satisfying, but it was also incredibly frustrating when it didn't go well. And frustrating in like a good gamey way. Like I never got mad at this game. Like I never felt like it was unfair, but I would certainly run out of time and have to start levels over. Mostly the bosses, but the final zones were pretty tricky too.
Yeah, they really did an insanely good job of calibrating just, the difficulty. Like I it has some difficulty settings, but I was playing on normal. It never felt unfair. It always felt like I was so close to getting to the next wave, and then I didn't, and I always felt like, oh, I was just a little too slow. Like you really, they did a wonderful job of calibrating how hard it is. And another thing, while we're on the topic, you mentioned how many people, or not people, how many like bad robots, monsters are on screen at a time. And yet the performance is rock solid and just totally great. I mean, this is an incredible, like, just from a technical standpoint, I'm really impressed with this game because, first off, it's made with Unity, which doesn't have a reputation for being an incredibly high-performant engine. And I've played other games that this is all 3D, by the way. Like, if we didn't say that, this is all three-dimensional characters. And I've played 2D games based on Unity that get bogged down if you get too many objects on screen. Another one that I've seen some grousing about on the internet recently is that Broforce, which is a 2D platformer, another Unity game, another shooter, came out on the PlayStation 4 right around the same time, I think. They were both a part of that same promotion. And Broforce dips down into the teens in terms of frame rates when you get particles on screen with lots and lots of stuff happening. And this game is locked at 60 FPS, more or less. Like, this game is super smooth.
It is insane. The amount, like, I can't stress that enough. Like when you're like really in the heat of maybe the final round of a boss, or like the final waves of things on the stage, the amount of stuff that's going on, and your characters are kind of fast, so you're like whipping in and out of these it's
Absolutely.
ridiculous.
It gets insane, not just in the kind of wave-on-wave combat where you're paying attention to all these different, pretty various types of enemies at once that, they're challenging you by attacking you at charging at you constantly and shooting at you. But then when you get into the boss battles, a lot of the boss battles have more in common with a kind of a bullet hell shooter than with other dual stick shooters that I've played.
Just pouring bullets onto the play field and you have to dodge them.
Yeah, waves and waves of literal waves of bullets flying at you. And the dodge, I thought, was actually a pretty cool thing. This is a game that gets away with having only 2 buttons in a really clever way. So first off, only having 2 buttons keeps the game really simple, and it means that you're not like fumbling with controls. But the switching from the primary weapon to the secondary weapon is also your little dodge flip move, which in these kind of super tight moments with the big bosses where there's like the whole screen is full of a swirling mass of like deadly dots that are trying to kill you, being able to just sort of do this sort of quick dodge through a wave of bullets and jump over it while simultaneously switching to your secondary weapon, which usually deals more damage to bosses depending on the little android. I think it just worked so well. When I got into some of these later stage bosses where they have a swirling cloud of bullets that is literally always around them, the ability to jump straight through that cloud of bullets while switching to like a flamethrower and then jump straight back out through that same cloud of bullets while switching back to my machine gun by using only 1 button. So fun, so amazing. The timing that's involved is so great, and it never feels like you're in an impossible situation because you can always do these quick dodges and move fast.
Yeah, I played with, so again with Starch, the thing that was tricky about her is that the laser deals more damage the closer you are. It has kind of like diminishing returns. So it was really important to be really close to the creature, to the bad guys. I've said creatures and bad guys like 100 times. The enemy robots. So I would use that dodge move like pretty liberally to get up right on them and just sit and like cook them with my laser, and then dodge out to do missiles, which was the secondary one. And there's like sometimes where a laser, especially on like the final boss, a laser will just wrap across the entire screen and kill anything that touches it. But if you time it just right, you can dodge right through this giant deadly beam. And that was always super satisfying, except for I'd get it wrong about 30% of the time and just poof.
Yeah, but it's great because they can kill you, and all it means is you lose some time. It doesn't wreck your run completely. And so they can be really brutal with like, this guy will fire out a cloud of insta-kill bullets, and if you touch any of them, you're down. But really, you can still get up from that. It's pretty incredible.
There were so many times I died having no idea what killed me. There's so much you have to pay attention to. Like, it's hard to look at your character. It's one of those games where you kind of always have to be like looking,
aiming.
You're looking beyond your individual character. You're looking, where's the battery? Oh, there's a little power up. There's different types of bad guys that I think you should prioritize to kill first. So looking for those. And then you just like feel the controller rumble and look at it like, oh, all right, something exploded my character in 1 hit. Because you have a little bit of health. I think it's 6 normal hits is what I saw kills you. But there are so many things that are one-shot kills that it really, you die early and often I found that I had no idea what killed me.
This is Junior Constable Cactus. I've caught up with the civilian freighter and I'm on approach.
So we've spent a while talking about the challenge of this game, but something I'd really like to discuss would be the characters, because you're constantly unlocking new androids, and I really, really like all the androids in this game. You start off with assault Android Cactus, who's a space police, and she's got a pretty versatile loadout with a long-range machine gun for her main weapon and a short-range flamethrower for her secondary weapon. And then right away it unlocks, I think, 4 androids.
Yeah, you immediately get Holly, Lemon, and Coral. And they're all also really unique. Like the weapons for each of these, each of them has 2 unique weapons. And so there's, there's 9 androids in the game. And each of them has 2 weapons, and they're all unique. So Holly has a cool cannonball that she shoots as her secondary weapon.
Holly's kind of a nerdy redhead android who, although they do a really great job with the personalities of the characters, frankly. Like, the characters talk out of the little speaker on your controller.
Oh, yeah.
And they say all kinds of dumb shit. And I don't know if you guys realize this. If you press the triangle button, they'll shout their own name for apparently no reason.
I did not realize that.
I don't know why that is, but I would do it all the time. And they have like they talk back and forth, especially when you're playing 2-player. Like, there's a little crown that goes back and forth between the characters.
That damn crown.
And they like to like taunt each other, saying like, I'm on top. No, now I'm on top, basically.
Yeah, whoever has the highest score gets a crown at the end.
Yeah, every android has different things it'll say when you get different pickups, when you get other stuff. It's really fun.
I missed a lot of this in that I was mostly playing single player. Unfortunately, the game does not have online multiplayer. It's all couch co-op only. But I did unlock, and we'll talk about some of the EX options a little later. You can unlock an option to play alongside AI opponents, but in that case, it doesn't count your scores towards like a leaderboard. So I mostly didn't play that way.
But before we get off of androids, let's talk about some of our favorite androids. I want to hear who's your favorite android.
I liked all of them. I played most as Cactus and Holly, just because they both were really good against bosses. But Starch also was a boss killer. I really liked the character design on some of the early ones, like Lemon.
Lemon is actually great against bosses.
I didn't use her very much. What were Lemon's weapons again? I don't remember.
Lemon's got a long-range missile for her secondary.
Right,
so
yeah.
That's really good,
Yeah.
and she's got a spread shot. But the best of the first 4, in my opinion, is Coral, who's got a shotgun and this plasma field that you can drop, and the plasma field repels bullets. So she's amazing against some of the bosses that have those big bullet clouds, because they just all bounce right off that thing. It's like dropping a shield.
Yeah, I don't think I ever played with Coral. We did, so I played almost exclusively as Starch, though I tried out pretty much when we would unlock one of us would try it out. So I did play Aubergine, and I also tried Peanut. Molly played mostly as Shiitake, who had It was an interesting one because the primary weapon was like a railgun. So it was actually, whereas most of the characters,
damage.
Yeah, but whereas most characters you can hold the trigger button and they're just like constantly firing and you're just running around shooting things. This required individual trigger pulls to shoot, and so it was a lot of damage, but it was kind of slow. But her secondary were these mines that were awesome especially for the real close-knit arenas. She would just run around dropping these mines, and they do a ton of damage and just rack up kills because they would just blow up this entire section full of robots. And so
She's great.
Yeah.
The way she like appears on the stage at the start of every level is she's got this like cloaking hood on, and she like takes it off and like appears all Predator style, like appearing out of nowhere. So cool.
The animations are great, and I don't want to spoil it because you do unlock a lot of androids, and in fact the final unlock is one of those things where you fight a boss and then you unlock the ability to play as that boss. And I don't want to say too much about her, but the final android you unlock, which you don't unlock until you've beaten the game, that final android is by far my favorite one to play as. Super fun, very, very different from all of the others, and it really gives you an incentive to go back and play some of the other modes, like the boss rush mode that you also unlock at the end.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because this game, like, I intend to play it a lot more because it is super satisfying, but they give you a couple different ways to play. Like, you are incentivized to play the main missions again because you are graded. And I don't know about you guys, but we were mostly skirting by with
Yeah,
Ds
I was
and
getting a lot of
Cs.
C's and D's. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we managed to be on maybe 2 levels. So pretty much just kind of, floating through like high school. So they not only you're incentivized to play through the real world, the campaign again, but there's also something they call Infinity Drive, which is basically see how long you can last.
Endless mode, yeah, it's great.
Which I enjoy a good endless mode. Boss Rush, which Reagan already said, you unlock at the end. It's just fight boss after boss after boss, which I think you can beat.
Yeah.
It's not endless. It actually
I
does
haven't
have
been
a
able to do it
conclusion.
yet, but you're basically playing all of the bosses for the entire game in order. So, they're all
that's
pretty
insane.
hard individually. And one of the real challenges with that boss rush mode is that all the bosses, I found I think I used a different Android on every single boss because they all have different attack patterns, and there's certain things that are better against other ones. Like, for example, one of the late game bosses, I had basically never used Coral throughout the whole game because I didn't really understand how to use the secondary weapon that Coral has, the sort of warp thing Shane mentioned earlier. But
Plasma field.
yeah, but I was completely stuck on a boss. I think it was the very last one, and I ended up... No, it was the next to last one. And I ended up realizing, oh, hey, if I drop the plasma field, the boss stands still several times, and you can drop the plasma field and then run away, and the plasma field just sits there on top of it doing damage for a while. And it felt a little cheap, but it was the only way I was able to get past that boss. And I hadn't used that Android at all from the beginning of the game. So you try different ones all the time. In the boss rush mode, you have to pick one Android and commit to it and play through every boss with the same Android. And that's really, really hard.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to giving it a shot. I want to tell you guys a funny story, too, about this game. So I guess we didn't read when they're kind of explaining how the battery works very well. And so we played through the first zone, no problem. We got to the first boss and just kept dying over and over and over, running out of battery. And it seemed impossible to beat this boss.
Did you pay attention to how every time you die, she says, "I need battery"?
Well, no, we knew that we were running out of battery, and that's what was killing us. But what we didn't realize is that it was built off of time and not. So basically, we thought every time we died, our battery would go down a little bit more. Even though you'd think that would be easily checkable. There's so much going on. It was always hard to tell exactly.
What do you look at on screen?
Yeah, like, would me die? Did it just go down because I died, or was that still just like And so finally, I kind of stopped and honestly looked up online and had read a breakdown of it's simply time. You have to kill stuff fast. Once we had that in our minds, dying is not. It doesn't hurt your battery. You just need to be doing a lot of damage. We smoked the boss on the first try. I think we ended it with almost full battery because we probably died 10 or 15 times. So we had the boss's patterns memorized. Just we were playing so carefully, trying not to die. And as soon as you kind of get over that and be like, you should still try not to die, but really your focus should be do 100% damage all the time. And it was just we were getting ready to quit
Switch
on
flipped.
this game, which is no fault to the game.
They do have a tutorial at the beginning, but it's it's very different from your standard dual stick shooter. Yeah, usually you have to spend a lot of time and energy and effort dodging bullets, and getting hit is a big pain. But
Yeah, absolutely.
Here, not so much. You can get hit, and it's not that big a deal.
Instead of typically, the bosses are very traditional for this kind of game. They are gigantic bullet sponges that go through a series of different stages, and you have to as you damage them, they change their patterns and their behaviors. But the difference is that you have to in normal games, it's all about learning where's the safe spot in this boss's stage, So until I get him to 20%, I have to just dodge, and then take pot shots or whatever. But in this, the bosses drop batteries as they change from stage to stage in the boss, and so you have to just sort of slam through, like bam, 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 and get the health down constantly. I think it's a little tweak, but it does change how the game plays, and I think makes it way more fun.
Yeah, there were times where I was literally just like, stand next to the boss and unload flamethrower until I die. Get up. Stand next to the boss and unload flamethrower until I die. 3 or 4 times. And, you know, that's a bit of a cheese, but sometimes that's what this game requires of you.
Yeah, and I don't think it was a cheese, because you're also like, you're right up on it. So you're, you know, you are putting yourself in the closest amount of like proximity to die. You know, like there's
and
probably,
if you're dying, you're doing 0 damage. So that's the incentive to not die, is that you're not laying down any damage while you're dead.
Yeah, I found, at least for starts, which I had to be close, there was like a happy medium between just like sitting up on the bad guy, just holding down on my laser and weaving in and out and trying to stay alive. Like you couldn't just, because the main way you lose this game is dying too much. Like we're sitting here saying that like it's okay to die, and it is compared to other shooters, but you still don't want to die.
It's going to waste your
like,
time, and time is the key resource here.
Exactly.
There's a few cool modes and options that you unlock as you go that I wanted to call out because I thought they were pretty creative, even though they're really not part of the main game. As you play, you're unlocking these like bonus points that you can spend in a little in-game kind of store called the EX Options collection. Actually, there's a few other things you can buy with your points too, like sound test modes and character artwork. You can unlock things like that. But the real key thing here is that there's these EX options that let you change the game in some interesting ways. And the weirdest one is that the game has a first-person shooter mode. Because it's all 3D, I guess it was something that they were able to include without, you know, a whole rewrite. But you can play this game from the Android's eye level. Like you can get in first-person mode in this game that really is not designed to play that way. So
That sounds insane.
It's nuts.
And there's a JJ visual filter that adds lens flare.
Yes, there is. There's a couple of other ones too. There's like a scorchy-looking one and one that makes things look psychedelic.
The funniest was normal-sized head mode.
Oh my god. So the description on normal-sized head mode is subject the androids to the indignity of human proportions. It's pretty cute. We've talked on this show before about how I kind of miss games that had big head mode as a kind of a whimsical option. This game is all big head mode, but of course they include a normal head mode as well. Very cute. And so, yeah, lots of neat little options that you can unlock, including the option to unlock additional AI partners, or if you want to increase the difficulty, the option of scaling up the difficulty like it would for having additional partners, but still with just one partner. So, for example, play with the number of enemies that you'd get in 3-player when you're only playing 1 player, that sort of thing.
I can't imagine being able to succeed in that. Like, we were with 2 people, constantly on the edge of running out of battery, it felt like.
Yeah.
And with
It's a carefully balanced game. It's great.
So I've been playing, I beat this game days ago, and I'm not one that tends to go back and play a game once I've completed it very much. I'm not really a completionist. I don't go through looking for collectibles. I don't tend to try to like maximize high scores on things once I've completed them. That's not really just how I operate. But this game was so much fun to play that I've been, jumping into it and doing some of the daily dives and the infinity mode and the boss rush again and again and again because it's really fun. So it altogether probably only took me about 4 hours to get through the campaign. But I've since then spent at least that much time just playing additional levels and unlocking things. And
Definitely.
Yeah, playing the campaign levels again to try and get higher scores. So this is a short game, but you can definitely pour some time into it.
I do have some criticism.
Oh, yeah?
So I think the game misses a few opportunities, and some of them are technical, and others I think are just places where it kind of dipped its toe in the water with an idea, but they didn't follow up. So first, I would love to be able to see, and I just don't think I can see this anywhere, what campaign levels I've beat with which Android. Because I would love to be able to go back and beat every level or every boss or whatever with every Android and have some kind of way to track that. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a criticism or just it's
a missed opportunity. So this is what I'm gonna have instead of criticism for this game is what I consider missed opportunities. Probably the closest thing to criticism that I have is that I had sort of a PlayStation Network bug with this game where Reagan and I were trying to use the share play co-op feature, which if you don't use a PlayStation, the PS4 has a share play feature that lets you see someone else's screen, which is great. And if you have a game that has local co-op, then you can give the controller over to that person. And share play just flat out does not work for this game because it says that it's not released in your region when you try it, which is some kind of PlayStation Network bug. I very much hope they get this worked out because I'd really like to be able to try it out with the share play co-op feature.
Yeah, even if that wouldn't really be like ideal online co-op, it would be nice to give it a try. I've played other games that way.
I think it would work pretty well.
Like even Towerfall, which is incredibly fast-paced. You're not going to play like tournaments that way, but for a sort of casual game between friends, that share play option is something that really, I really like it. So yeah, I was kind of bummed that didn't work.
An online co-op would be much appreciated in this game.
Yeah, really would. I really wish it had online co-op. And I don't know whether that would be possible technically. I know they're a small team, like 3 people, and that's the kind of thing that is a pretty difficult thing to manage. So I don't blame them for not having that feature, but it really would be cool to have. Maybe in Assault Android Cactus 2.
Yeah, sign me up.
I wonder latency issues with the amount of stuff happening on the screen at the same time.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be insane.
Yeah,
they
maybe.
did very much set up, no spoilers, but hey, there's something after the credits.
Yeah. Story-wise, it does seem to set up a sequel or something. And
sequel implied. No shocker there.
Yeah.
I guess final kind of thing I'd like to see when it does come back in Assault Android Cactus 2, which I will buy whenever it comes out, is there was a lot of really intriguing stuff brought up in some of the level design that never really got fully followed up on. And one example of that was when you introduce the shiitake. There's a long hallway level, right, where you're kind of making your way down a long hallway instead of circling in an arena. And there's another level where the floor appears in front of you when you walk on it and disappears when you walk away, where the enemies can get really spread out and you have to hunt for them in order to collect the batteries. And so stuff like that I thought was a really kind of interesting twist, and I just wish they had gone farther in that direction. More variety to the levels would be a really big bonus to have in another edition of this game.
Yeah, a lot of the levels were you are in a rectangular room, shoot things until they stop, and that was still a ton of fun. But you're right, that one level with the appearing and disappearing floor that essentially felt like an endless level. With that was insanely fun, treadmill. And it was a totally different challenge than all the other levels. I would have played a half a dozen more levels just like it, and maybe with variations. Totally more variety of the levels would be amazing. But and it was it was a relatively short campaign. I would have loved to have seen more variety.
Yeah, some of the stuff that I liked that I think to go off of that, even if it was just more environmental stuff, one of the levels. A grid of lasers drops down, and you have to blow up the posts of the grid to kind of drop those lasers.
Yeah, they use that in some of the bosses, and I think in one of the levels, and that's the kind of thing that I'd love to see thrown in a little bit more for sure.
I really dug this game. I'm really glad that I played it. I actually have to specifically thank the PlayStation Network for featuring this game, sort of. They put it as a part of the... I hadn't seen this game on Steam. It's been out on Steam for a little while for Mac and Windows, but it just wasn't something that was on my radar. But then it was one of the 3 games that was featured in that little PlayStation Plus vote thing that they did, where they have the PlayStation Plus members vote on which game would be included in the free games for the month. And this was one of the 3.
The fools chose Broforce.
Oh my God, you fools, you all failed me. Like, what were you thinking? But it was still...
Probably voting for Trump, too.
They probably are. But it got the game onto my radar. And so when it dropped, I bought it on day 1. And I'm really, really glad that I did it. It's an incredibly fun game.
And we also had someone reach out to us about this game as well, right?
Yep, we got an email from listener Jeremiah. So thanks for writing in with your. He was pretty excited to hear that we were going to be doing the game, and specifically wanted me to mention the EX options, which were indeed awesome. Thanks, Jeremiah. Do we know what we want to do next?
No.
Me neither. Let me take a quick look at the list, because if we can come up with a quick idea, then we can always mention it. It always helps to mention it.
Destiny's coming back with a new update, so I figure we're going to do that, right?
Yes, that's going to be our next episode. Here, well, actually, let me look at the list real quick, and we'll decide. No, I don't have any ideas.
So this is the end, guys. I hope you've enjoyed our podcast, The Short Game. We've covered every short game there is. Hope that some of the developers out there take note and make some games that are short. I have some ideas for our next podcast, which could be something like the first 4 hours of every long game. And after that, I don't know. I guess we'll have to move on to books.
Yep, we're going to have to take a hard look at our list and figure out what we're doing next. Right now, not sure. But next, if you listener have a recommendation as to what we should be playing next for the show, we'll probably have figured something out for next week by the time you hear this. But we haven't figured it out yet, so now's a great time to recommend a short game if you have one in mind. And thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode of The Short Game. Hopefully not our last one. I've been your host, Reagan Kelly, and I have been joined this week. Oh, you can find me on Twitter at ReaganK, that's RayGanK, and you can find the show on Twitter at _shortgame or www.theshortgame.net, where we got a cool feedback form where you can let us know about that short game that we're not thinking of. Nate, where can people find you?
On Twitter at NateSTL.
And Shane, where can people find you?
I'm over at 8-Bit Shane.
And we'll catch you next week, hopefully, on The Short Game.
I'm just a little android, and my battery's running low. I'm just a little android, and I'm moving oh so slow. Whoa.